Dr. Jared Shah, my fellow speakers, ladies and gentlemen, you don't know what a privilege it is for me this morning to be here for several reasons. One, of course, is I'm your director's teacher. That makes you my grand student. That makes you my grand students. The flip side is, I've never felt older than I feel today. You know, these days, I go around speaking anywhere, in government schools, in little colleges, in little villages, to institutions like these. And I almost never say no, because especially when people like Jared Shah makes you feel so old, the only way to feel young is to speak in young institutions. And that's why I'm here this morning. So thank you, Jared, for having me here, and thank you, students, for having me here, because it's predominantly the student side. You know, I'm going to basically talk in a more reflective manner, because I think the students like you already know, in fact, you use the right definition when you say leadership is all about inspiration. So I'm not going to give you any theories of leadership and so forth. I'll just share some reflections of my own. Because more often than not, if you ask a young management trainee what he thinks is leadership, he'll say manager is my leader. You ask a manager who is your leader, he'll think general manager is the leader. General manager will think the CEO is the leader. The CEO will think the chairman is the leader. The chairman may think the promoter is the leader. The promoter may think the chief minister is the leader because he has to, ensure that things work well for his corporate. And in general, in the country at large, if you talk about, all the problems in India, why 67 years after our independence, we still have 60 crore people without adequate food or adequate housing or adequate this or that, is as a failure of leadership. So suddenly we are talking about leaders who are on spotless white, or on a white ambassador with a red light on top, or with safari suit gunmen right next to you jumping the queue at the airport, security when you are waiting. So that's the leadership that comes to mind. The question, and institutionally, if you talk about leadership, every institution on day one, first of all, they believe without a mission and vision, there is no leadership institutionally. And everyone, his aunt and cat, wants to be world class. They may not even be regional class, they may not be state class, they may not be national class, but they want to be world class. So there is a lot of misunderstanding, as if leadership is about a destination, about a position. And we all know that's not true. Our very, very wonderful, a good human being as a Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, his most ardent well-wishers will not call him a great leader. Prime Minister he was. Leader I am not so sure. Anna Hazare, a retired Havaldar driver from the Indian Army. General V.K. Singh was photographed sitting at his feet in one of the pictures. So is a general a leader or is a Havaldar a leader? So obviously positions or reaching somewhere is not what leadership is all about. So then that raises the question, alright, if so, then what is leadership? And I'm just going to give you a few stories which in some ways will define, to my mind, what a leadership mindset is all about. Because as youngsters today, often we seniors have this liberty. We screw up the country big time and now say the future is in your hands. That's one advantage of getting old. So the future is in your hands, so it's your leadership that will count for the future of this country. A small street kid in Calcutta by name Subhash, born and brought up on the streets of Sialda and Howrah. Father a drunkard, one fine day runs away from home. The mother is a housemaid. The kids have only the platforms to live on, used, abused, and everything else that happens in the Indian railway stations. One day the kid takes a train to Delhi and lands up in Delhi railway station. where a whole lot of these racketeers congregate to pick up exactly such kids, because some of them may be bootleggers, some of them may be drug peddlers, some of them may be begging racketeers or whatever. They are always looking for these kids. And this kid ends up with somebody who's exploiting labor, so he's working in some shack as a cheap labor in a dhaba-like thing, where he meets a decent couple who try to give him a break in their home and try to teach him how to read. So he has read 3 books in his life. He has read My Experiments with Truth. He has read Ekla Cholore and Nauka to Be of Rabindranath Tagore. That's the only 3 works he has ever read in life. And then he starts taking a stock of his life. What are my strengths and weaknesses? He is not educated. He has no money. He has no family. He is living off somebody and he doesn't know how long they will keep him anyway. So on the negative side, there's a long laundry list. But on the strength side, what is my strength is the question that he asks himself. What strengths would you find in a kid like that who is born and brought up on the street, who for 3 years has been given a break by a decent family, who has not a penny to his name? And he says, my only strength was I understood a street kid's life better than anybody else could. That is his strength. So on the strength side, that one-liner, I understand street kids better than anyone else. On the negatives, there are many. Now, if he is to build a life, he is to build a life on that one strength. I understand street kids. So what does he do? He talks to his benefactors and says, I want to work in some NGOs which work with runaway children. So they help him. He works as an office boy, as a, lower grade clerk, running errands. But he's keeping his eyes and ears open for how these institutions operate. He tries to understand, are they doing what the street kids really need, or are they doing something that they believe the street kids need? Because he understands the street kids' needs better than anyone else does. He tries to understand who funds these institutions. He tries to understand what are the information systems which tell you whether the organization is running well or not. So over a 6 or 7 year period, working with 2 or 3 different NGOs, he understands the ropes of all these NGOs that work with street children. And then he decides to set up his own NGO. He doesn't have a place, he has nothing. But what he has is a resolve. At 6 in the morning, he says he goes to the Nizamuddin railway station every morning to pick up the kids who arrive by Hara Mail or whatever. And he says, I know what they need immediately is food, washing and a patient ear. Just to listen to them. And as of today, he has put thousands of kids back to their families, or he has educated thousands of kids. He gives every kid a bed to sleep in and one good meal a day and tries to train them in some vocation or other, and his NGO is called Anubhav. So what are we trying to say in all these examples? I think I've given you enough examples. I won't rattle off any more, but one can go on all day with examples of these kinds. That leadership is about how we think. It is not about what position we are in, what we are designated as. You could be a shop floor worker and you could have the mindset of a leader. Obviously, excellence is part of that leadership potential. Never say die is part of that potential. Finding strengths where everything looks bleak is part of that potential. But I would imagine that essentially these are the ingredients of leadership. You could translate something similar in the context of institutions. Very often, if we have very beautiful office and very elegant glass and chromium exterior and interior and 1.5 inch thick carpet, we think we are a very professional organization. But obviously, a professional organization has nothing to do with any of that. We all know that. A professional organization is here, and not here about the CEO or about the promoter. It is what is the positive culture that has been ingrained in everyone, including the office boy. If the office boy cannot think differently from other office boys, then I would say that the leadership penetration in the organization, in the institutional level, is not complete. So I would want all of you to more, the only takeaway from what I'm trying to share with you is try to redefine leadership in your own minds. Some people tell me, but sir, don't you think ambition is important? Nobody is saying ambition is not important. Without ambition, the world won't run. The whole hallmark of capitalism is ambition. Ambition is about your dreams. You're going after your dreams. But leadership is about how you are going about it. Leadership is about how you are going to inspire others to pull into the dreams that you have. Leadership is about dreams of a higher social purpose. Yeah, sure, you can have the dream of being a billionaire, fine. But without a higher social purpose, it won't give you the same kick as the kick of genuine leadership which comes from your internal transformation. So I think that's all the information that I want to share with you about what my take on leadership is essential. I would wish you all the very best, wonderful careers ahead, and I'm sure that people like you coming back to my old age camp are genuinely the futures of the country.